Did you know you can use the Bilgewater duplicators on any tier 3 unit with a Bilgewater emblem? You can also give Galio a Noxus emblem to reach 10 Noxus without having to push for level 10. Emblems in set 16 have been underperforming quite a lot. In fact, all of the augments involving emblems were among the worst performing augments in the game. To make emblems more appealing, Riot gave them a ton of stats to the point that a Yordle emblem looks like a tiny Infinity Force. Even though the bonus stats are nice, this video isn't about stats, quite the opposite. Emblems can be incredibly interesting ingredients to cook with, either because some units excel with specific traits or utilize the special emblem effect in a unique way. But before I showcase all the crazy things you can do with emblems in set 16, let's make a trade. I receive a subscriber and you gain knowledge about leduck shenanigans. Sounds fair to me, so let's get started. Recently, I was asked what my favorite emblem was. To their surprise, my answer was the Piltover emblem. So far, this emblem was mainly used to unlock the TX faster, which is a shame considering how much fun you can have with this item. For starters, it can be one of the best mana generators in the game. For the first two modules, you want the mana regen cogs together with the acceleration gate. The first one grants 2 mana regen and some ability power. The second one restores 35% of the caster's max mana over 2 seconds. If you give the Piltover emblem to an invoker like Lysandra, you already get insane value. But if you add Echo Engine as your third module, you can truly break the game. Lysandra will quickly reach a state where she will cast after each auto attack, dealing massive amounts of damage to the enemy team. To push this interaction even further, you can combine it with an invoker emblem and an adaptive helm. With this setup, even units with an insanely high mana cost like Swain or Kindred can easily cast in quick succession if the fight goes on long enough. While the mana side of Piltover is definitely awesome, you can have fun with other modules as well. For example, Superior Lifeform creates a copy of your 2 strongest Piltover units with reduced health and damage. One of the funniest units to use for this effect is Wukong. When he dies, he leaves a weaker copy behind that has the same items. We can create a Wukong copy thanks to the Piltover emblem, which allows us to get a second stone copy as well. As I've shown in the artifact video, Wukong is a great user for Light Shield Crest because you get the team-wide shield twice. With this setup, you can proc the artifact 4 times. Talisman of Ascension is also a fun option because if Wukong ascends before he dies, a copy will spawn with more HP and instantly ascend as well. The Void Gauntlet could be an alternative, but it's not something I would recommend because the item doesn't deal any relevant damage in this setup and there are better artifacts to look for. Also, you want to be careful about Wukong not dying in the first 8 seconds. The stone copy is not a valid target and you will end up with only a single copy in the fight. Unfortunately, Piltover emblems can be quite difficult to get, so sometimes you have to improvise. Let's say you're looking for Mining Drill, but you can't find it. The best alternative is to simply play T-Hex with a Vanquisher emblem. Vanquisher T-Hex is surprisingly good at generating gold. You could even say he's so good that it might be worth it to play 2 T-Hex, each of them equipped with a Vanquisher emblem and then copying both. With this much money and so many dinos, you might as well open Jurassic Park yourself.
Welcome to Jurassic Park.
To stay on the Vanquisher emblem a little bit longer, it's definitely worth mentioning both Misfortune and Singed as fantastic users for this emblem. Misfortune is the safe choice since Bilgewater is quite strong, she uses the spell crit well and is able to generate a lot of gold with her ability. Singed, on the other hand, doesn't care as much for the damage increase, but he is probably the greatest unit when it comes to generating gold. You can get him quite early if you start with a loose streak and then get to use the bonus gold from the Vanquisher emblem to accelerate your economy. While it's usually easy to find a good user for the Vanquisher effect, it can be a bit more tricky with the Gunslinger emblem. The trait itself doesn't matter as much, so let's focus more on the effect. Every time the holder deals physical damage, it reduces the armor of the target by 2. Ironically, the best users for this effect would be Gunslinger units like Jinx, Misfortune, Lucian or the T-Hex, but sadly we can't give them the emblem. What remains are units like Ashe. If you play her together with Tryndamere, she gets bonus arrows based on how many units they've killed so far. In late game, Ashe can have 8 or 9 arrows, and since each of them counts individually, you might end up reducing the enemy armor by a flat 20 with each auto attack. It sounds amazing, but sadly, this interaction is also slightly held back by a bug. When you reduce the armor of a unit too much, it goes into the negative, which the game tries to reset back to 0. This causes a lot of bugs at the moment and often results in the affected unit gaining a ton of armor back in the process. Gunslinger Warwick can also be surprisingly efficient, especially if he has a Titanic Hydra. This artifact causes a small amount of physical damage around the target and will reduce the armor of the enemy frontline even faster. You can also try Gunslinger Callista, since she has a lot of spears that already reduce flat armor, but my personal favorite is to combine the Gunslinger Emblem with the Cutthroat Cutlass. Dealing physical damage causes a 4-second physical bleed, and each dot will interact with the emblem to reduce the armor even further. You can try this on Gangplank or simply play Ryze, since he can carry Bilgewater items without needing an emblem. The Bilgewater trait bonus for Ryze causes bonus physical damage, therefore causing a physical bleed. By combining everything, you've created an AoE armor shredder and transformed Ryze into an AD carry. The final emblem that deserves a big spotlight is the Arcanist emblem. It has a powerful effect that grants the holder 20% of their max mana after killing an enemy unit. You don't have to worry about mana lock if a unit with a long cast time like Seraph kills anything while channeling. All mana generated from the emblem is banked and returned once the mana lock is over. Overall, the effect is strongest on hard-hitting AP units with a high mana cost like Seraph, Ziggs or Mel. And with the right items, it's even possible for any of them to cast twice in a row. You can even try to combine this effect together with an Invoker emblem to gain more mana for each kill and more AP for each cast. I also want to highlight Aurelion Sol, who was changed in 16.3 and now gains stacks based on damage dealt. Once he has enough stacks, you can position him to hit as many units as possible and regain a ton of mana in the process. In this setup, Aurelion ended up casting 3 times in a row and completely annihilated the enemy board. Even though we spent a lot of time in set 16 already, it feels like there's still a lot more to discover. Just as an example, the Warden emblem feels like an underrated item since the effect works with any shield. This opens the door for crazy tank builds based around T-Hex or Tibbers that feel somewhat unexplored. Hopefully this video gave you some new ideas on what is possible with emblems in set 16. What is your favorite emblem strategy that I haven't mentioned yet? Let me know in the comments. I hope you learned something and see you next time.